happy Mother's Day, and I hope you are enjoying this beautiful morning. And a warm welcome to folks who are listening from wherever you are, and especially from Songas in Madison, England, Switzerland, and Alpine, Texas, and our dear friends in Hawaii and Chicago. So I'm going to give announcements at the start so that we don't have to get them after the service and everything. So Appamada will remain closed through the month of May. This is to assure the safety of the Sangha, and we hope you'll be patient as we attempt to learn how to allow folks to return safely. And this week, our Dharma talk will be offered by Joan Harman, our head student. So we'll continue our practice period for the time being. So please pay attention to the 4 Brahmaviharas, both as you are receiving them and as you are radiating them. As a reminder, our theme for the practice period is the Brahmaviharas, or 4 immeasurables of benevolence, compassion, empathetic joy, and equanimity. And then a reminder, this evening Young Zen will meet online, and Tuesday Flint will again offer inquiry on Zoom. The link is in the calendar. And so Saturday morning there's a meditation and discussion of women in Zen at 8, followed by the Buddhist Action Now meeting, which has moved to 11. So those are the announcements, and I'm going to turn things over to Joan.
Let me see. Yes, you are. Okay. It is so good to see you, and so nice to be spending the morning with you. As with Peg, I want to wish each mother a happy Mother's Day, and each child of a mother a wonderful day of being. We will be writing this morning to prompts, so if you don't have pen and paper handy, you'll want to get some. The latter part of the year, Peg began teaching the Brahmaviharas, which she just gave a nice introduction of. They are unconditional kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. They have been called the divine abodes, and that's the term Peg likes. I think she likes to think of us inhabiting them. Other people call them the 4 immeasurables, the 4 limitless ones. The Brahmaviharas are the teaching of our spring practice period that Peg mentioned, that was originally going to end May 24th, and now will end with the intensive when it occurs, which might be in June. The Brahmaviharas involve the opening of ourselves. Unconditional kindness is the opening of love and goodwill to ourselves and to others. Compassion is the opening to the suffering in ourselves and others. Sympathetic joy is opening to the happiness of others. Equanimity is holding those 3 with balance and equipoise. It involves a deep understanding that feelings are impermanent. They are not bound up in self, I, me, mine. The Buddhist teacher Ayakema said of the Brahmaviharas, they are the only emotions worth having. Now, I might quibble with some of that, but I embrace her enthusiasm for the Brahmaviharas. In one of her Dharma talks, Peg explained how we can grow our capacity in radiating the Brahmaviharas. While meditating, we can visualize radiating each one of the divine abodes in each of the 4 directions, north, south, east, west, and above and below. Peg said she even goes in between to northeast, southeast, southwest, northwest. You can't be too thorough in this. In Peg's teachings, she points out that the Brahmaviharas are fundamentally relational. As we come to the end of this study, today I thought we would focus on the relationality of the Brahmaviharas. With unconditional kindness, the relationality is, I care. With compassion, it is, I see you. I recognize your suffering. I work for its release. For sympathetic joy, the relationality is, I celebrate your joy with you. I am delighted for you. With equanimity, it is holding all of this in balance. I am a stable presence for myself and others in an unstable world and in uncertain times. With the Brahmaviharas, we express our Buddha nature. I would like for us to explore today how the Brahmaviharas are present in our lives with others. I thought we could do that best through a writing experience. So please take out your paper and pen, and I will offer prompts for your response. There are questions. You will have 5 minutes to complete each question. If you finish ahead of time, just remain in silence until the next prompt. The first two-part question is, think of about a person you have known who radiated unconditional kindness, loving kindness, benevolence. How did it feel to be with this person? And the second part of that question is, think about a difficult situation you are in or have been in and inhabit it at this person. How would that be different for you? Question 2, part 1. Think about a person you have known who has radiated compassion. How did it feel to be in this person's presence? And part 2 of question 2, think about a difficult situation you are in or have been in. Inhabit it as this person. How would that be different for you? Question 3, part 1. Think of a person you have known who's radiated sympathetic joy. Experience joy from others' joy. How did it feel to be in this person's presence? And part 2, think about a situation in the present or past when you have heard about someone's good fortune. Inhabit it as the person you identified as radiating sympathetic joy. How would that be different for you? And you might have guessed what might be the fourth question, part 1. Think of a person you have known who has radiated equanimity. How did it feel to be in this person's presence? And part 2, think about a difficult situation you are in or have been in. Inhabit it at this person. How would that be different for you? Okay. We will now break into small groups to discuss what our writing revealed. It would be helpful if one person in each group would act as facilitator to assure that all voices are heard. Anne, would you give us 15 minutes for this period? And then we'll return to the entire group for a short time of sharing and then for service.
It's like everyone's back. Okay. Paul's, a few of you still muted. I'm sure that's by choice. Oh, I guess can everyone be unmuted so that they could make comments? There's a lot of you. Not our monitor, but that's, I'm sure that's by choice.
Yeah.
Were there any things, and I guess people could raise their hands, is that right, Anne? Or you can try speaking.
There's a function if you click on participants at the bottom of your Zoom screen, there's an option there to raise your hand.
And so if anyone would like to just share some of the things from your group or some of the things that you recognized, we would love to hear.
Joan, I don't know if you see, but Anne's hand is raised.
No, I can't. Would you just go ahead and do that for me?
Yeah, sure. Well, Anne.
Okay. Um, two of the people in my group, myself and somebody else in the group, we were talking about imagining or remembering someone that had equipoise, and we were talking about how that's a little uncomfortable because we are so used to basing our impressions of a situation and ourselves on how someone is reacting to us. And when someone is very balanced, not on my side, not on their side, how that can feel a little uncomfortable.
They aren't meeting your emotion.
They're not joining it. Yeah, for sure.
That's interesting. I was thinking about that differently, about how helpful it is when I'm rattled or distressed to have someone who isn't rattled and distressed by what I'm experiencing enough so that I can kind of get my bearings, and that their steadiness is so welcome when I'm disoriented or upset or distressed in some way.
Yeah, and I think about this person, and they are who I go to when I'm rattled and distressed. But in a sort of social context, I'm so used to all the little clues that it really makes me aware of how my fear of being judged when I'm not sure.
Ah, yeah, that's so interesting. Because you have an expectation for yourself that you would always project assurance.
Or that I'll always be seen as pleasant and agreeable. And, yeah.
Yeah.
I hesitate to interject this, and Peg straightened me out afterwards. I mean, in this group. I was with a group on Friday talking, and we were talking about this issue of being at a different level than who you are, and that a therapist in it said that the brain, there's something in the brain, and I shouldn't even talk about it since I don't know, but needs to be met, and that it can be helpful to meet that person's intensity and then come back down so that they feel met, but then to say, and let's see if we can find a way to feel more comfortable in this, or whatever, but then to bring them back down. That was a discussion we had on Friday.
Yeah, equanimity isn't about being a stoic. It's about that capacity to return to balance even after becoming unbalanced. So that we don't lose our connection with our vow. So Joel is saying something.
He's muted.
Oh, you don't have to be muted, Joel.
Joel's still muted.
Oh, yeah, you're muted. Oh,
I don't know how to unmute him.
He probably can't unmute himself.
he can unmute himself and
he has to go to the corner on the left down to mute her.
Joel is
Now, okay. Now I'm unmuted.
Yes.
I'm hearing a delay about 5 seconds later.
5 seconds.
And an echo.
we are too.
So I'm gonna mute myself again.
No.
Okay.
I wanted to say, just that when the question was first brought up about equanimity, it was that it really implies a connection with the other three qualities: the sympathetic joy and compassion and loving kindness. That otherwise, it's not like, as I've typed, it's not like talking to a robot.
Yeah.
It's and the experience for me of being with someone who has real equanimity, as Peg was saying, has something to do with a feeling that they recognize competence in me and have some confidence in me, and are willing to be with me however things turn out. So that's it. Thanks.
I also think of it as that quality, that bodhisattva quality of belief that everything is workable. So whatever experience is arising, whatever the upset is, it's all workable. And I think that also gives some confidence and establishes some trust. So I don't particularly want to share my upset with someone if I think it's also going to upset them. If it's somehow going to be contagious or bring them down or make them worried about me, or I much prefer that it be someone who can hold a space where all that can move without themselves being rattled by it, but that we can together look at it in a way that makes it workable. So that means I can't really trust that communication if I worry that it's going to toss the other person. Yeah.
Kim has his hand raised.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to say first that I wasn't getting this at all until we did this exercise today, Joan. So thank you for that. And then I was thinking just now about how there's this expression about giving something a face. And then I was thinking about these famous photographs that we connect to different situations, like the end of World War II, where the two soldiers in Jamaica, however you pronounce that, but they were putting a flag down, or the guys on the moon, or there's so many situations where we remember them because of this face or this photograph. And I was thinking of a situation too in the study where someone was really bothering me, and Peg was there and completely equanimous, it appeared, about this situation, and how that made me question how I was responding. It was important. So those situations, but the word equanimous or loving kindness or any of them doesn't mean that much until I start to imagine something. So it was such a helpful exercise. Thank you, Joan.
Well, and I have to say, Peg is the best at prompts, and she helped me with these. But thank you, Kim.
I do think it's helpful to have had the experience of these qualities embodied in a person. It helps us see them more concretely and also more accessibly. As I was saying, most of the qualities that I encountered in each of these people were expressed in tiny moments or small gestures or just a gaze. They weren't big heroic efforts or massive undertakings on my behalf. They were very tiny moments that had a huge impact. So that's something to remember, is that we can never really predict when our tiny gestures of kindness, which seem almost inconsequential to us, have an inordinate impact on others.
Hello?
Yeah.
I would like to share a little bit my experience because it was very interesting. What I can say is that when I was scanning the first three Brahmaviharas, I could feel that in some way or another they work within me, and I can feel how the other person that is having the Brahmavihara can affect me, and I could feel or I could have the feedback over there. But it's interesting, and I can find out, and I don't know if it's just because of this exercise that I had some kind of problems with equanimity. So I couldn't attain this equilibrium that is typical or characteristic of this Brahmavihara. Instead, I tend to be one more with one of the other ones. It's for me is more difficult just to be in this kind cold state. I don't know if I can call cold state because it's so in equilibrium that I don't feel, I don't know, comfortable, or I cannot get it, or I didn't practice. I would like to know your opinions. What can be this, or what can I do to practice?
I don't know what you will do, but I can give you an example. Um, when I was out at the 1 month intensive at Tenzo, I was brushing cushions off. It was 4 o'clock in the morning. And I was brushing cushions off in the Zendo, and I got stung by a scorpion. So I've never been stung by a scorpion before. I had no knowledge about what it meant to be stung by a scorpion. I didn't know if I was about to die. I didn't have any idea what to do. And so I went back into the main lodge, and there was Colin. And Colin was a fellow practitioner, fellow priest. And I said, I've been stung by a scorpion. And I was really rattled and really in shock. Like I didn't have any idea what was going to happen. And he said, oh, here's what we do about that. We put meat tenderizer paste on it. We have meat tenderizer over here. We make a paste and we put it right on the sting. And you're going to feel a little rattled for a little bit, and then you're going to be fine. That was equanimity. He knew exactly what to do. I was completely rattled, completely freaked out in a way that I couldn't even articulate. And it was knowing what, how to not only provide first aid in the situation, but how to be that voice of calm and reason and information that I needed right in that moment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense, a lot of sense. But I would like to know what was the impact when you were so scared about the situation. What was the impact in you when he just, with this coldness, just said something to you and
everything relaxed?
Everything relaxed.
Everything relaxed in that moment, yeah.
Well, that's amazing.
And then I felt the, tingling and, a little, you could feel it in your nervous system. I felt that kind of electricity in the nervous system, but I wasn't frightened of it anymore.
That goes along with the idea of everything being workable.
Yeah. 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 And just that a certain quality of presence he was completely unruffled by that. Of course, he'd grown up on a ranch. He'd probably been stung by scorpions 100 times, you know, so there's experience is sometimes valuable in that situation, right? And
Yeah, that's the point.
yeah, and it's a one-time thing, but it's that quality, and it's the quality that you hope a nurse will bring when you're, you know, sick or in the hospital, or the quality that you hope a doctor will bring, or a quality that you hope a teacher will bring when you're confused and don't understand a problem. And it's that sense. This is all workable. This all is going to have a good outcome. And some other's quality that I think of as, I'm here for you. You're not alone in this. And that you can take to the bank.
Thank you.
Paul, Paul, you need to be unmuted.
Can you unmute yourself? There you go.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now.
There you go.
As we talk about this quality of equanimity, and I'm in agreement with some of you who've shared that that was a little challenging. But the thing that comes up for me when trying to answer some of the questions, or at least after we've talked about this, the thing that comes up for me with regard to equanimity and the challenges is my ego. It seems to me that with the other qualities, loving kindness and compassion and sympathetic joy, I have received those from others. And so I have a better sense of what those feel like, so that then I can express that or radiate that. So I have a sense of it. And each of those, loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, to some extent have addressed my ego. They have that's how I'm able to identify with them, in part through addressing my ego, validating my ego. Whereas with equanimity, the challenge is that the person that is expressing this Brahmavihara, this quality to me, my ego kind of feels like, well, I need validation. I need validation, and that's not like loving kindness, and that's not like sympathetic joy coming my way. And so for me, that's the challenge, is that my ego needs that validation, and equanimity doesn't seem to be providing that.
None of them really should be, but I can see what you're saying.
Mhm.
Yeah, but that's the challenge. That's what comes up for me. And then when I recognize that, I do try to settle in this place that we've been referring to as a balance, and to recognize that that the ego is the thing that's sort of in the way of being able to express or receive those qualities.
Well, Paul, you were a firefighter. So when you go into a fire and there's somebody trapped in a fire, that quality of equanimity is absolutely essential to rescue them. Right? They may be screaming, but you have to be calm, right?
Right. That's those things that occur in emergencies, at least from my experience, are pretty much done automatically as a result of training and the purpose of being there. You know, the purpose is to do that, and then I employ the training. Wow. So I don't know this for sure, but I almost feel like those qualities aren't even a consideration. I'm just kind of almost responding on automatic.
But you have to stay calm.
Well, yes, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And in our intensive that started all this, we actually trained in the Brahmaviharas. It was wonderful. It was an integrated intensive, and in the morning we learn about one, and then we go about our day training in radiating thee. So training is a good way of looking at it.
So you have a couple hands there, Joan.
Yeah, I can't see that. So.
Yeah, Joan, Sandra has her hand raised, and so does Ellen.
If you click on participants, Joan, and you have the list of them on the right, you'll see their little blue hands are up.
Oh, right.
Oh, their little blue hands. Okay. Well, we'll go for Ellen first. She's first in the alphabet.
Sandra was first.
Okay, Sandra, you were first.
She has to unmute herself.
Oh, and can you unmute?
Okay. So
there we go.
So I really appreciate the exercise. Really, now what they say, I can really feel this Brahmavihara experience in my body. So it was making a lot more sense, more the equanimity. That was the most difficult for me to understand, to embody. But now what you're explaining makes a lot more sense. And I think in some way everybody would practice that, but we don't realize, and we don't put the name. I think that's for me my difficulty to understand that. And one thing that I noticed in the exercise that was very, very helpful for me, I was just dealing with my conditions going around towards some people. And this really helped me to really see through this other person the kindness, the compassion, and the equanimity. And I completely released, it was just releasing all these boundaries, because I was just caught in that, my mind, but I realized that it was just my condition and the other people's condition. So in this moment, it was just releasing all that. It's really wonderful. And it was very, very helpful for me. Thank you so much.
Well, and you said earlier how you saw that you had a lot of these qualities. And in our intensive, what I saw is this, at least in part, is our Buddha nature. And this is what we can train in radiating, our Buddha nature. Ellen, you want to?
Yeah. In regards to what Peg and Paul were saying, what stuck out to me was, well, in Peg's situation, this fellow, he knew what to do about the scorpion bite. And so that was very, gave the situation a lot of confidence. And Paul talking about, well, I was trained, I just react the way I was trained. And then what Peg was saying about, she said that a person with equanimity sees the whole picture. They have confidence that this is a workable situation. And that takes a lot of work to be that person, because my own fear, I'm thinking about how I was as a parent. There were a whole lot of things I was very equanimitous about for my kids, things I understood. And they would be, especially little kids, they hurt themselves or whatever. And you can be I could offer equanimity. Oh, you're all right. Come here, let me hold you. Hey, isn't that better? Or whatever, you could, I didn't have fear. I could see it wasn't a fearful situation, but especially as they got older, I did have my own fears about their behavior and didn't handle it nearly as well. I'd love to do all of that over again.
No, you wouldn't.
Maybe not. Better. I know I could do it better. So I was thinking about, I don't know, our practice and how it takes practice to be equanimitous. That's it.
I think that's absolutely right. This is why we sit, so that we can meet circumstances without getting so rattled that we can't find a beneficial way to be in the situation, so that when people are distressed, we can be a calming presence. So we can't do that if we're reactive. It's just not possible.
And Kathy King has her hand raised.
I do. I don't know if you're running out of time, though. I just wanted to interject this short story of being in Ireland last year when my cousin had died. And I was struggling with whether to go home, or not even home, but going to Atlanta from there, and being part of the funeral party, and to even do a reading there. And I was really going through angst about it. And I was standing next to the woman that summer became a Roshi. And she looked at me and she said, "How would you like it if we had a service here for him tonight?" And that changed everything. And as Peg said, my body just immediately relaxed, because that felt like it was the right way to go. And it was such a simple thing. And it brought everything together. And I stayed. And thank you.
Thank you all for your wholehearted participation in this. Have service now?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
So we'll do service, and then I don't know if folks are interested in having breakout rooms after the service for a little just social, connection, but I'm happy to set that up, or have Ann set it up so we have, a little bit of time after. So looks like everybody probably needs to be muted again, and we'll do service, except me.